It's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. You know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Yeah, baby. Woo. And hello, everybody. And get situated here and get that chat room open. Me. Hello. How are you guys? Let's see who's in that chat room. We've got Kristen Knight, Dan Weber, John Pearson, Jesse J. Peck, Martin Gravel, Dan Weber, Stuart McClellan, Amanda West. Hello. How are you, Amanda? Chris Anderson. Hola. Andre Stepanian. Ian Shortle. Peter Rahill. Seventh like. Yes. Give us some likes. Giovanni Lanza, here, not sleeping. I love it. Terrell Beckless. Hey, comrades. We're all moving to Russia. Mark Reel. Ewart Williams. Timothy W. Cook. Cass McKenty. Hello. So, it's Tuesday. I'm actually going to take tomorrow off. I've got to work 2 hours in the morning, and then I'm taking the rest of the day off. A friend of mine bought himself a sniper rifle. Yeah, because you need one nowadays, right? This guy's got a great gun collection. He got a new sniper rifle, and he needs me to go to the range with him and be his spotter to help him get the sights all tweaked. So that's what I'm doing for the better part of tomorrow. That's going to be fun. 2 inches to the left. No, 2 inches to the right. No, an inch higher. Inch lower. You know, honestly, I didn't ask him what caliber. I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that he's been trying to get this rifle forever. And I mean, I don't know if he plans on using it for hunting someday or just because he wants to own one. I don't know. He sent me a photo of it, and it's got a big scope on it. And he's going to sight it in from 300 yards, I think he said. So what's that, 900 feet? And said he's going to be shooting at a target that's about the size of a paper plate. So there you go. Hello, Brad Gray, Darren Fletcher. Wow, Amanda, your daughter shoots for Great Britain and her hubby shoots for the team also. Well, hopefully they're not shooting at each other. Hopefully the marriage is working out well. We hunted snipes in the Boy Scouts. Well, hopefully that's the only thing that was hunted in the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout too, had no problems. Hello, Scott Hanson, Karen Brasher, Alex Dillon. Scott Hanson shot the sheriff. I think you guys most of you probably saw the interview I did with Carl Richardson, one of my mentors from Criteria, who ended up becoming the Bee Gees co-producer. And I told the story about the first time I was ever allowed to go see a control room. Carl took me into the control room of Studio C at Criteria, and they had just finished up doing the album that had I Shot the Sheriff on it. And he played me that, and I want to say maybe one of the Bee Gees songs from the main chorus album, but just hearing that stuff in the control room, it's like, man, oh man, was I hooked. There was no reeling me back in after that. Hello, L. Harrison, Darren Moss, Simon Burnham. I did not shoot the deputy. Oh, I just saw last night, I think it's on HBO, that a Bee Gees documentary is coming out, I want to say December 13th or 15th, somewhere around there. And in the trailer for it, or the promo on TV, there was a real quick, like 1 second shot of Carl sitting at the console in the control room of Studio C. So, you know, I had to rewind it and pause it and say to my wife, that's Carl Richardson. And she, that's nice, honey. She could care less. Ken Parks Productions, hello. Just listen to the interview with Angela. Great interview. Love the corporate spirit at Taxi. Well, I don't know if I'd call it a corporate spirit, but we are technically a corporation. Yep, a Bee Gees documentary coming to HBO. I really can't wait to see that. I think I've told you a bunch of times, but, I knew Barry Gibb. We weren't like besties or anything, but, knew each other because we were in the same building all the time, would see each other, like putting cream cheese on a bagel or making a cup of coffee and passing each other in the hallway and such. He was always such a gentleman, such a nice guy. Everybody that knows that man always says, nicest guy in the world. Smile and nod. That's what my wife does all the time when I talk about music here. Oh, man. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be one of our loose, informal hangs. I mean, if you guys have follow-up questions from yesterday's Taxi TV episode, feel free to ask them. Hey, Barry, can you please pass me the cream cheese? Actually, if I remember correctly, he didn't call it cream cheese. He called it something else, but he was from the Isle of Wight, and I don't know which is what part of the UK? Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe, Amanda, you can answer this. What do they call cream cheese in the UK? Talk about windage and drift. That'd be a good name for a band. Freestyle Quarantini happy hour, the best. Creme fraiche. There you go. Near the Isle of Lucy? Wow. Cream cheese. They call it cream cheese there. Well, Barry had another name for it. Maybe he called it that white crap you smear all over that hunk of bread. I don't know. Fromage en crème. I love it. Right, creme fraiche is not cream cheese. Creme fraiche is like, it's kind of a little bit like sour cream, right? But not as sour. Hello, Edmond. How are you? So, I was a little impressed with myself that I freestyled yesterday for an hour and a half on that subject. I thought that was going to be like a 20-minute long thing with a lot of Q&A at the end, and no, yours truly can talk up a storm. Question from Timothy Cook. Do you recommend putting contact information in the metadata? Oh man, absolutely. That's the most important thing to go in your metadata. We actually make sure that we include your name, the song title, your phone number, your email address, and our email address in every single piece of music that gets shipped out from Taxi, just so you know. Tantrums being thrown on the forum. Remind people that library owners do read the forum and will be put off. Cass, if you would be so kind, would you please email me a link to the most recent tantrum so I can go take a look at it? Yeah, it's amazing. Some of the stuff that people do in public, and we do have library owners. And I can think of 2 music supervisors that also go to the forum. I mean, I don't think they go there on a weekly basis, but, several times a year they'll mention to me, it was on the forum. Thank you, Cass. All right, well, now I'm going to slurp some tea for that person who didn't like me slurping way back when we started this thing. Boy, talk about, talk about the pandemic. They're locking stuff down like crazy now. Do you know that as of yesterday, all the restaurants that went to the trouble of building these cute little outdoor cafe situations on sidewalks, a sushi place that Deb and I go to, it's very close to our house, they put this adorable little outside restaurant that's actually kind of nicer than the inside restaurant, and we've been going there about, once every week or two lately. It feels safe. You're distanced from other people. You're outdoors. Now it's getting a little chilly to eat out there at night, but they do have a couple of those little tall heater things. But, they went to all this expense, just looking at what they put out there, I would say a few $1,000 minimally. And now our beloved governor, and I say that in quotes, is saying that restaurants can no longer serve outdoors. You can only do takeout. Scott Hanson, so glad you brought this up. Scott has refused to open up for dining in, carry out only. Here's the ironic thing. Here's what I don't get is for months they were telling us, stay home, stay inside, don't go outside. But I think that they finally landed on you're safer outside because it's fresh air, and you can stay socially distanced from people. And now they're saying that most COVID is contracted in your home from other people. So are they going to lock us down again and tell us to stay home? Are they going to tell us all to, don't go in your house, stay outdoors? I don't think anybody really knows what the heck to do with this whole thing. But I am really glad that, 3 companies now are going to be delivering vaccines very shortly. I read today somewhere online that by the second week in December that healthcare workers and elderly people in nursing homes are going to start getting the vaccine. So that's impressive. And they say that by mid-January to early March that it will be available, kind of as it's rolled out. But by mid-March, they feel confident that it will be available to everybody. I got to say, that's impressive. Remember when this whole thing started? They kept saying, it takes 3 years to get a drug through the FDA. And again, not being political, not taking sides here at all. But something I learned the other night watching the news was that President Trump rolled out his warp speed thing and funded the pharmaceutical companies with at least Pfizer, that one I know for sure I heard, with $2 billion each on January 13th. So on one hand, while he may have tried to minimize the fear factor by saying, not going to be that bad, which he's taken a lot of grief for, and I can see both sides of that story. On one hand, people want to know the truth. On the other hand, by virtue of the fact that they bought a ton of toilet paper and paper towels, I think people did panic. But I'm impressed that he started Warp Speed on January 13th, and here we are 10 months later with the vaccine starting to roll out much sooner than we all thought. So yay. Sorry, catching up on my reading here. Dan Weber had to rant a little. I missed your rant, Dan. Stay alone at your home with your family. Yep. Question from Andrei Stepanian. When a library asks you to casually send them tracks, what is a good number per week or month without being too aggressive and annoying? The fact that you're even thinking about being overly aggressive and annoying tells me that you'll be sensible. I wouldn't send them a whole bunch. You could ask some of the other people in the chat who've had library experience, but I would say a handful. Send them a handful. Don't send them like 12 or 20 or 50. Send them a half a dozen. That tells them that you're prolific on one hand. On the other hand, it doesn't make them go, okay, I see what we've got here. In Portugal, they also say family contact, that's spreading the virus. Yeah, honey, I need you to go to your mother's house for a couple of months. That solves 2 problems. Sorry, Deb, if you're watching right now, I didn't mean that about you. I was just talking in general. Yeah, 3 to 5, that's reasonable. It tells them that that you know what you're doing and that you got some stuff, but it doesn't freak them out. In Australia, we have virtually no cases now. Extreme lockdowns work. Months ago, we had 700 cases a day, and the same time as cities overseas had 700. We now have 0. They have 10,000 upwards. I don't know that I would keep sending them a half a dozen month after month. Send them the first batch and see how they react. Karen Brasher says, I need help with vocal sounds. Can you be more specific? Cass laughed at the toilet paper shortage till I thought about large families staying home. Yeah, I wouldn't send them every week. Send them stuff every week. They're going to feel like you're an ex-girlfriend stalking them or something, or a future ex-girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Vocal sound. Do you need a plug-in? Again, it's so hard to tell without actually listening to it. I mean, does it sound thin? Does it sound kind of fat and tubby? Does it sound not like you? I mean, there's so many things involved in getting a vocal sound that, it could be the key you're in. It could be the microphone. I've seen people online. I always laugh when I see people online using USB microphones. I can't think. There's one particular one that shows up in a lot of places. And people don't know that the microphone that you need to talk into the front of the microphone, I say that as I'm pointing to my microphone. Here, I'll hold up my microphone. That's where you talk into microphones like this. These guys actually put a little blue light on there so that you know that, I guess. But usually where the brand name is where you talk into it. But I see people doing this all the time, talking into the end because they've seen microphones look like pencils all their lives. So I don't know, Karen. I wish I could give you better advice, but it's not like you can just buy a plug-in and it's gonna solve the problem. It could be the microphone, it could be the EQ, it could be the compression, it could be the preamp, it could be almost anything. Yeah, distance is important, Bill Rosso says, and I agree with him. But, what is it not doing? What does it sound like? Wanting to sound indie. I have a good mic, just like yours. I'm looking to know how much echo. There are two styles of indie vocals. I mean, indie vocals, there actually is a Taxi TV from about 2 years ago with Stephen Memel talking about how to get an indie vocal sound. So much of the indie vocal sound is actually the attitude. But again, it depends. Are we talking like indie singer-songwriter stuff now, which is very different from like James Taylor singer-songwriter stuff? It can be very moody and very saturated with reverb. There are other indie vocals that are more like indie pop or indie rock that don't have very much reverb at all, and they sound kind of a little raw. But it depends. Everything is dependent on the context of what you're doing. When in doubt for reverb, this is just me personally, and again, I haven't worked in a studio in a very long time, so this could be very old school advice, but my default setting on reverb was usually like a plate sound, which was very popular back then, with about a 1.5 second decay, maybe a 2 second decay time. if you start getting up into 3 and 4 seconds, like if you use a chamber sound or a rich chamber, it's very drippy in reverb. So, if I can't tell you without context, I just can't tell you. Sorry. Oh, here's an interesting thing. I wanted to ask you guys about this. I saw somebody who's not really a competitor of taxis, but somebody who holds some sync conferences, several of them around the world, and don't blurt out the name because I don't want to put the company down. Not publicly. Anyway, no, I really don't. So now, obviously, they can't do their conferences in the physical world, so they're doing virtual stuff, which I certainly understand from firsthand experience. Got a froggy throat today. Apparently, I need more tea. Anyway, they're now rolling out a thing where you can submit music to like up to 2 briefs a month. And one of the 2 people is a music supervisor friend of mine, actually somebody I know fairly well. and he's doing it in conjunction with this other person who I believe might be his closest friend. And they're doing this thing. And it's $150 for the first month and $200 a month after that. Or you can pay a flat rate of $1,800 a year if you pay everything up front. And I thought, man, oh man, I'm worried about raising the price of taxi. I know that there's another woman, one of our regulars here that's from the UK that I don't believe is in the chat room today, and I won't mention his name because I don't want to get him in any trouble with anybody. But he reached out to me some time ago and said, he was taking a course from a lady who was teaching a sync course on TV commercials. And I want to say, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. It was $3,000 for, I want to say that it was a 6-week course. And basically this person brought in a bunch of industry experts, like the people that you would find at the road rally, and charging $3,000 for that. Excuse me. And when we did the math, on the number of people that she had attending for the last 2 sessions, maybe it's 6 months, I don't know, whatever time period it was. I think maybe it was 6 months because we figured she could do a couple of them a year, times the number of students she actually had in the class. And it worked out to, she was like grossing a couple $1 million with not a lot of overhead. And I'm thinking, I'm an idiot. I'm doing this stuff for free. What are they doing? They're giving advice. They will listen to your stuff and give you some feedback on a couple of tunes per week or per month. They will let you pitch at a couple of briefs per week or per month. I think it was per month. They will teach you stuff like we talk about all the time here and on Taxi TV. So Darren says, yes, I've seen the $3,000 course. I know what you're talking about. Won't blurt out the name if you don't want me to. Nah, don't. I just don't want anybody to feel like I'm publicly berating them. Hey, congratulations to her. She can get $3,000 for that? Wow. Maybe I should just retire and go live on a tropical island with a good internet connection and start just teaching for $3,000 a course. Taxi is the deal. Thank you. I mean, seriously, when I'm seeing the numbers that these people are charging, it's insane. Wow, here's a question from Mark Reel. I had returns yesterday that said the vocal delivery is a little shy of what they need to find this useful. How can I get clarification on shy? Is it my vocal? Is it the melody? Is it the mix? Again, without listening, it's like saying, well, I think that the blue color that you used for your sky in that painting may be off without seeing the painting. Honestly, I just don't know. But they probably mean a little shy of getting over the hump, the quality bar, not like shy, like, oh, I think I'm going to go hide in the corner kind of shy. Jim Stamper says, I might have paid that much as a rookie, but now I know there are less expensive ways to get the information. And yes, taxi is a great deal. Oh, thank you. Question from Akira. I put a longer comment in yesterday's video, but here's a summary. Just curious. Does taxi screen potential clients to protect their members from obvious bad deals? Absolutely. Actually, John Pearson and I had this discussion. He was just recently offered a deal from a company through Taxi, and either texted me or emailed me and said, what do you know about this company? Because they want me to send everything that I've got that's not signed. My advice to him was, first of all, yes, we screen every company. By the way, JP, I should let you know that when I was proofing listings yesterday and today, I saw a couple come through by that person's name, and the company name is now the company you mentioned. It used to be another company, and when I saw his email address was at the old company name, I went, oh, I remember those guys. Yeah, they're totally fine. And like I told John on the phone when I called him back about that, was that whenever a company approaches Taxi about running listings, the first thing that happens is the A&R staff will go over it with a fine-tooth comb because they know I'm going to do that. And I get upset with them when they don't do good research, and they just, which is rare, but there have been times where they forward, hey, this looks great, can we run listings? And I'll dig deep, I'll spend anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour researching a company. I do stuff like Google their name, the company name and reviews, their name and bad deal, their name and ripped off. Of course, if you Google taxi and rip off, you'll find all kinds of stuff about how we've ripped off millions of unsuspecting musicians. So you got to take all that stuff with a grain of salt, but look for, are there several people saying stuff like that? Does it sound valid? I look at literally every page of their website. Maybe one of the most telling things I do is I'll go in and play stuff. If their catalog is online where you can listen to it, I'll go in and play stuff. If the quality of the music is high, I know that talented creators are signing with that company where they wouldn't have that great music. Then I look for telltale signs like, is it a company where about 60 or 70 or 80% of the stuff that they've got online is from one composer or two composers? That's usually a clue that it was a composer or two that has gotten a lot of traction, and he or she got to the point where they couldn't keep up with all the opportunities that were coming at them, so they decided to start a library and invite other people in. But sometimes when I see that situation, it looks like they haven't had a lot of placements. Usually libraries will post stuff on their website. We've had music on this show or this network or that network. So, people could make that up. I don't think many people do, but I've seen some really scummy competitors of taxis in the past that put that stuff up there, and I knew absolutely it wasn't real. But in the case of libraries, I don't think I've ever busted a library for posting false information about where they've had placements. So you look for telltale signs, good ones, like, do they have a lot of good music? Do they have several or many composers that are in their catalog? If I see a taxi member's name in their catalog, I'll call that taxi member and say, hey, how's your experience been with them? Then we talk to them about their deal. We look at how long they've been in business, all that kind of stuff. So yes, we actually research very carefully on these companies. And as I told John, I think sometimes I really piss off the guys in the A&R department. If we're having a skinny month where not many listings or not many good listings are coming in, and when I say not good, I mean like weird genres that probably wouldn't have a lot of appeal to most of our members. If it's some sort of weird, I can't think of a weird genre, but just Romani is one that I keep remembering because we had several listings from a music soup that was working on a movie that had a bunch of scenes with gypsies in it, and they needed authentic Romani music, which apparently is gypsy music. I didn't know that. I Googled it. I went to Wikipedia. I listened to some and went, oh, okay, now I get it. So we have months where, maybe the number of listings coming in is strong. but the desirability factor for our members is not that strong. And we know what our members like and what you guys don't like. So they'll want to reach out to more new companies and create more opportunities for you guys. And when they do that outreach and they get all excited, look, found a new company, boss. And I check it out and go, you guys, I don't feel that good about these guys, Another example, by the way, of when we don't have to do much research on a company is when somebody we know well that we might have had a long relationship with leaves company X and goes off on their own to start company Y. That's a company that we base our entire judgment as to whether or not we should work with them, whether or not we would want your music going to them, is based on our experience with them over a period of years where they were at that other company. So that's another way we check them out. How many participate via a shared membership with your collaborator or partner? By the way, I want to add to that, Peter. Thank you for asking that. And I want to add that, remember, you can only submit music that your name is on the copyright. Okay? If you didn't co-write it, don't submit it. We do have people that sometimes get busted for sending stuff in. Well, this guy recorded it at my studio and I produced the tracks. Well, that's great, but you can't sign off on a license for it, right? I guess not. Okay, then you shouldn't have submitted it. Because what happens is if we forward it to either a library or a music supervisor and they reach out to you because you're the member that submitted it for your friend Johnny and your name is Timmy, and they call you up and they go, hey, Timmy, I want to use your song, I Love Debbie Doodle in my new movie coming out. And you go, oh, let me connect you with the guy who actually wrote that. Doesn't look good for any of us. Question from Pierre. How can you spot a fake listing? Is there a way to find out? Well, one way is if the verbiage in it looks remarkably similar to Taxi's verbiage. We have had cases where companies have actually gone. We had one company that was taking virtually every Taxi listing. Clearly, they were on our mailing list or they were going on our website. They would copy our listings in their entirety and then just change a few words and take the Taxi number out. And they actually would paste in their company name and a different ID for their company. But we knew they were our listings because it was our writing. I mean, I see every listing before it goes out. So pretty easy for me to go, I edited that 2 days ago. Another way that we could tell is our typos were in their listings. Yes, we do make typos, even though the listings go through like 3 or 4 people. Andre says he's getting a lot of collabs from other Taxi members as a result of the virtual road rally. We were hoping that would happen, because we weren't in the physical space of the West End, so that's great. I've seen a male, pretty well-known in the industry, author of a well-known music book, who's charging $3,000 for a course on pitching music to supervisors. So there's more than one. And, here's the interesting thing. People who are more experienced in the industry will tell you that it's really hard to pitch to supervisors. First of all, they're all different kinds of supervisors. A supervisor who works on reality TV and uses primarily instrumentals is one kind of supervisor. Supervisor who you could see, oh my goodness, that's a huge, big brand name music supervisor. It works on huge movies. The chances of them using music from an unknown independent is really, really small. Most of the time, they license stuff from major acts on major record labels. There are exceptions to every rule. Sometimes I always stay and watch the music credits, and I will see music from libraries that we do business with all the time. Sometimes we hear Taxi member music in a movie that we go see. Or we didn't recognize it in the film, but we see it in the credits. Go, oh my goodness, that person definitely got to deal with that library through us. So cool. So there are feature film supervisors. There are episodic, drama, 1 hour drama supervisors. I don't know what they call those guys. TV music supervisors. They have different needs. They look for different kinds of music. But I can tell you that the chances of you getting a reality show music supervisor to listen to your 1 off or 2 off or 5 off instrumental cues, even if you get the person's email address, they can't just use that. They've got to run it through. Usually the production companies that do reality TV have like a head music supervisor that approves what can go in the bins and is available to use by the editors. So even if you get your stuff to an editor, they've got to get that music supervisor to sign off on it. But the music supervisors know that the production company has already made a deal with the libraries, and so they're not like, whoa, check this out, new music. They don't get excited by that. You might stand a better chance of getting something used by a music soup working on episodic TV, but several of those guys are my friends, and I've asked them the question. They go, dude, do you think I have the time to listen to music that comes into me via emails? You know that 90 to 95% of it is either going to be bad or off target. Why would I do that rather than listening to the stuff that comes in response to my briefs from trusted sources? Makes perfect sense. So there you go. Yes, I'm very familiar with the company that has the soup get together. Company name starts with a D. Yes, I actually was a speaker at their stuff for easily 10 years and then bowed out at some point because of stuff that happened to myself and other people who were regular speakers there. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I had a long relationship with those folks. Yeah, there used to be a thing called Sunset Sessions, I believe, and that's not related to what John is talking about, but that was another scenario where they would get together in like San Diego, some sort of resorty session setting, and a bunch of supervisors got invited, and they would lavish great food and free booze on them. And then, if I'm not mistaken, although I was invited to speak at one of them, I couldn't go because I was going to be out of the country. But I think that the bands, it was mostly bands and artists that, like composers didn't go to that thing so much, but bands and artists would go, and they would play showcases for the soups at nighttime. So everybody would eat well and drink well and then go to the showcases. So I did know of acts that ended up in some really big stuff because they went to those things, but I want to say they charged a few $1,000 for you to be like a featured act at that thing. Apparently I'm just charging far too little money. I'm laughing at Scott Hanson. I'm always laughing at Scott Hanson. Next time somebody rips you off, call me. I know a guy who can take care of that for you, my Uncle Tony. I did love that aspect of living in New York. Everybody seemingly had an Uncle Tony that would take care of stuff for you. Hey, people call taxi pay to play. To me, pay to play means that, like, the phrase pay to play started out with what do they call that when you give a disc jockey, here's $5,000 to play my song, payola. But then it also came to mean on the Sunset Strip with clubs that would charge the bands $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, then give them a bunch of tickets that they had to sell to their fans. I could understand why the venue would do that, because otherwise they might have a bunch of unknown acts that had no following, and they would have a band on stage that nobody knew, that didn't bring any patrons into the bar/restaurant. They got to make money. So basically, they were saying, put your money where your mouth is. If you think you're so hot, then you probably have a fan base. So here, we're going to sell you some tickets, and you can give them away or you can sell them to your fans. Yeah, Sunset Strip is virtually all pay to play. Somebody could give me 5K not to play. That would be me. To pay me to not sing. Stuart McClellan, I'm trying to understand this. Sometimes the cost solidifies the participant commitment. That I get. If something's expensive and people pay for it, they're in. I used to do audio live and products for motivational speakers. I felt that way about Taxi and an engineering club I joined. Oh, that because we charged money, that other people who joined were legit or serious? Yeah, Dan Weber, try the custom critiques. Honestly, it's been a long time since I've looked at one, but I do know that members frequently tell me that, wow, I love the custom critiques. Um, Terrell says Taxi is more of a pay then play, so the people who pay can hear you play, then the cycle continues. That was a little unclear to me. Yeah, if Taxi didn't deliver any other value to you other than pay us money and we'll send your music to people in the industry, I think that's what a lot of people who don't really understand what Taxi does and how Taxi does it, I think that's what they think. It's like you're paying to get your music forwarded. No, you're paying for opportunities, but you're not guaranteed to get forwarded. And you're getting the education thrown in because we really genuinely know and care about helping you get good enough that you can get forwarded. Otherwise, we would just take the money and we would have been out of business a long time ago. Jesse charges $100 to play Freebird. There you go. Taxi membership is the rally. Yep, that's a big part of it. Well, there you go. Cass says our old band, the Blackbird on a Wire, filled up the Cat Club with a residency, so we got paid. Yeah, if you're a band that has 300 people showing up to hear you play, then it's not pay for play. They will be thrilled to pay you to be there because your 300 fans are going to drink booze when you're there. They're there. The screeners need a tip jar. Oh, man. Greengrass and High Ties and Freebird must have played 1,000 times in the day. Fun for the first 100 or so times. Yep, there goes. Oh, yeah, by the way, I got myself the new little baby ring light. It's awesome. It's about 2 arm lengths away from me. It's about this big around. It's the right color light. Looks good with the other one. The problem is this thing turns off after it's been on for an hour, and it doesn't have a setting to stop that. I emailed the company. It's like it's worthless to me because I might go over 5 minutes here. You'll see it at 5:01. This thing's going to go off. If I'm doing a Monday episode that lasts 90 minutes, I'm going to have to refire up the light an hour into the show. Not cool. And it uses LEDs. It's not like it's sucking a lot of electricity or it's going to overheat. Darren Moss says, feedback. I'm in taxi for the feedback. Education more than the forwards. I'm trying to put together some music that's really strong. That's the aim. I'm not as fussed about doing music for TV and film. You know, I wish I could. Well, you can look at the resumes of the screeners on our website. I think it's under the About section or something. And frankly, we don't do a very good job of updating that list as frequently as we probably should. But these people have been around the block. You know, you may not always agree with them, and they may not always be right. I always say, look for commonality in the comments. If you have 3 different screeners within the context of screening it for a particular song for 3 different listings, but they all mention that the vocals are pitchy, at some point you got to go, they might be right. Taxi was and still is often my music university. Thank you, Amanda. And you know, I'm always looking for cool new stuff to add to Taxi, but I don't want to spread our focus too wide. I would rather do one thing really well than try to be all things to all people. That's just good common sense as far as running a business and marketing and all that stuff. But there's always that little thing inside of me that says, is there something we can do better? Is there something we can do more of? Is there something we can add? Oh, did I miss my question being answered about a virtual component to the future road rallies? I had to go get a drink. I think it's unlikely, Brad. And I know people would love it, but have you been to a physical road rally? If you had, first of all, the cost is just prohibitive. At $2,000 a day per shooter, per camera person, we would need 2 in the grand ballroom. If all we did was videotape or live stream just the panels in the grand ballroom alone, that's 2 shooters a day. So that's like $6,000 a day times 3 days. So, $4,000 a day times 3 days. So there's $12,000 added to the cost of the road rally, which I don't charge for. And then, somebody said to me, and you could have people doing the classes upstairs. Well, sometimes we could have 7 to 10 classes going on up there. And then somebody else said, well, why don't you just have people, standing in the room doing it on their cell phone? Oh, that's great. Let's have a designated person doing this for 90 minutes for a class. Oh, look, there you are. First of all, who's going to volunteer to do that? Some people might volunteer to do it. They would have to bring a tripod. They would have to have good Wi-Fi, which the hotel is not famous for, frankly. And then where would they route it to? Would we have, 7 to 10 YouTube channels going simultaneously for these classes? It would just be, $2,000 a day is what real video guys cost, because you have to pay them for them and their gear. I'm sure I could find cheaper people, but for real, professional people, that's what it costs. Could we see Robin Frederick again? She was great. Yeah, I'll probably have Robin on the show fairly soon. I usually like to have her on the show in early to mid-December so that I can brag about her books and sell some for Christmas time. The reference tracks on listings are so cutting edge, they're often the impetus for writing a song, such as the Ross Cooperman ref. I've never heard them. Yeah, I listen to the refs. I've never heard these artists either. The education I get just from the refs when I get the listings from the A&R staff, I would think that's worth $300 a year, just having somebody comb through all this stuff. And you're getting, at least 50, 60% of the refs now are coming from the companies that run the listings with us. We got a little ticked off that they would tell us, I want this genre of music, and loosely give us one ref in a phone call or an email. And then when they get the music, they go, well, that's not what I was looking for. Well, you gave us the ref, you gave us the genre. Well, I wanted it to be more like the genre. I guess the ref wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So now we really push them harder on it, and more often than not, when we get the refs from them, we'll ask them to give us 3 refs, and then we listen to the refs and see if they all make sense. It's not that all 3 refs have to sound exactly like what they're looking for. It's, are there things in common? Are they of similar tempo? Are they of similar style? Are they of similar instrumentation? The best thing a phrase I came up with years ago, which makes it into a lot of listings, at least it has in the past, I don't know if it still is so much, but if your music could fit on a playlist with these 3 refs that would also be on that playlist, would it make sense? If you walked into a bar and there was music playing on speakers in the ceiling, would your song fit on the playlist for the stuff that they were playing? That's probably the best way, you wouldn't hear a metal song on an easy listening playlist, right? But if you listen to an easy listening playlist, there would be some certain similarities. Yeah, Mason was awesome. Mason and I became really good friends very quickly about, 3 or 4 years ago, I think. I'd heard his name mentioned by other friends of mine in the industry, other supervisors, and they always spoke highly of him. So one day I just cold called him, and he was a little like, he'd probably heard the bad stuff about Taxi. Oh, they charge musicians money and forward based on whoever pays, which wasn't the case. So he agreed to meet me for breakfast in the little town that he lives in outside of L.A., and he was a little cautious in the beginning, like for the first 15, 20 minutes. And then he started warming up, and, the meal ended like 3 hours later with a nice hug, and we've been friends ever since. We talk several times a year. We go to dinner. Actually, he's one of my dinner dates at the Road Rally frequently. We will go hide in the corner of the back room off to the side of the restaurant at the hotel, and just the 2 of us will hang out and have a great dinner. And we've got a couple of musician daughters the same age, and we spend more time actually talking about our families than we do music, funny enough, which is always a good sign. I like people who talk about their families. Mason Cooper plays the Song of Amanda's. Yay. The thing that makes Mason so cool, in my estimation, is that some music supervisors are just music pickers. I don't know if it's fair to call them tastemakers, but they just pick music and put it under their boss's nose, whether it's the showrunner or executive producer on a show or a director for a movie, what have you. Mason's been a publisher. He knows music law inside and out. I don't know that I'd want him to be my attorney if I were getting sued over a music case, but he really knows what's going on. And he understands mixing. He's an excellent music editor. So he's really good at presenting the music that he chooses in the best possible light for the people that he's working for. If you need a music supervisor that can make a deal happen for something that's probably not going to happen otherwise, he's the person you want to have go to bat. So he's an all-arounder, and he does all that stuff really well. I like him, and he's a good guy. You do learn a lot about somebody when you golf with them. That is so true. I don't do it anymore, but back when A&R people were more important to Taxi when A&R people were like actual A&R people. I took every Friday off to go play golf with A&R people. Almost every single Friday, if the weather was decent. I'm obviously not going to go out on a cold, wet Friday. And found that to be the absolute best bonding experience. I would always get listings from them. I would never ask on the golf course. Just play golf. Again, talk about family. Talk about your golf game. Talk about anything but, hey man, can you run listings? Or here's what my company does. Just leave it alone. And usually at the end of the game, they'll say, hey man, let's keep in touch. And that's when you go out to dinner with them 4 months later. And then maybe you call them up and say, hey, by the way, we're a little skinny on listings right now. I could use some fresh blood. Is there anything that you're looking for? Oh, yeah, man, sure. What do you need? And that's how it happens. Years ago, Ralph Murphy and Ralph is my favorite golf partner before he passed away. And he brought, I can't remember his name now, but the head of IMRO, which is the Irish PRO. So the CEO of IMRO, Ralph Murphy, why can I not think of his name? Who's the chairman of the board of ASCAP? Paul, little short Paul. I can't think. Paul Williams. And the four of us went out and played a round of golf. Paul Williams is hysterical on a golf course, by the way. I'd always heard stories from Ralph, and Paul lived up to every one of them. He was a super, super sweet man. And the CEO of IMRO, at the end of the day, we were, in the little food place at the end of the round, eating a burger. Best burgers at that place, at Rustic Canyon Golf Course. I think they're the best cheeseburgers in the city of Los Angeles. And we were eating, and the CEO of IMRO said, hey, while you're in the restroom, Ralph was telling me about your company. Tell me more. And I told him more. He was really, really blown away. But that's the kind of stuff that happens on a golf course. You get to know people. They get to know you. Trust is built. Relationships are formed. And that's how it happens. IMRO rules, says Amanda. Question from Darren Moss. I don't golf, but I do breakfast. Which one is better for getting to know somebody? Do I need to get a set of clubs? Nothing beats golf. Maybe fishing. A breakfast, people know they're being taken out to breakfast so that you can talk business. You want to get to know them. You want something from them. On a golf course, it doesn't feel like that at all. Yeah, it's got a clubhouse now. Rustic Canyon does, Cass. I actually really like that course. I'm not a great golfer. If I break 100 on a big boy course, I'm doing well. I don't cheat though, so that's why I rarely break 100. I think probably my best round was like an 87, I want to say, on a pro level big boy course. Oh gosh, what's the course? You'll laugh at this, Cass. You'll love it. I bet you my light goes out in a minute because I'm going to hit 1 hour. Poipu Beach, the golf course at Poipu Beach on Kauai, where Tiger Woods used to hold a tournament every year. And they've got that weird grass. Once you're off the fairway, the grass is like a Brillo pad. It's all like intertwined with each other. And it's like 2 inches deep. So if you hit one off the fairway, it gets buried in this grass. Finding it is a problem because it's not like it's sitting on something. It's buried inside of this green steel wool looking stuff. And then when you go to try and hit out of it, it's impossible to hit out of it because the grass literally catches your club. If you swing hard enough to cut through the grass and get under the ball, you're going to hit the ball too far. So if you're fairly close to the hole and you want to give it like a 20-yard chip, and you're in that grass, you're screwed. So one day I went there by myself, and as golf courses do, they pair you up with somebody else, a total stranger, to go out with. The guy I got paired up with was, I want to say, the publisher of the Houston Chronicle. I think it was the publisher, like the head cheese at one of the big newspapers in Texas. And after about 4 or 5 rounds, it started raining like a mother. And we did the smart thing. We went under a big tree to keep from getting wet. He said to me, "I've got to tell you, you're the first golfer I've ever played with who's going to hit his green fee." And I just chuckled. I didn't really think about it. What he meant was, it was like $170 a round to play on that course, and he was predicting that was going to be my score. It was one of my worst rounds ever. It was quite embarrassing. Yeah, highest score wins. I'd be a championship golfer. I'd be on the tour if that were the rule. Anyway, it's 5:01, and look at that. My light hasn't gone out yet. Surprise! So I will see you all on Monday for regular Taxi TV. Everybody who's in the States and celebrates Thanksgiving, I'm sorry that many of our governors are telling us we can't have family over. That sucks. But have a great Thanksgiving anyway. And, think about it. I'm sure everybody's got something to be thankful for. Hey, we're all still alive, right? We can be thankful for that. I will see you Monday. Monday, I'm doing an extravaganza on instrumental cues, which will not only be for people who don't know the drill already. Hopefully, I'll bring up some stuff for people who do know the drill. Maybe another way of looking at things. Anyway, thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Good to see you. We'll see you on Monday. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. Bye-bye. See you soon.